I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Candace Owens, who's now, I guess, officially being sued by the president and the first lady of France because she's been going around saying that Brigitte Macron is a man. And at one point, Candace Owens even said that she was willing to risk her career, put her whole entire career on the line over this allegation. So I guess she's going to go to court and have to prove that or lose out on a lot of money. So that's kind of breaking as far as that news dropping. So that's kind of fresh on um, Twitter as far as I guess people started dropping a couple hours ago. I was busy earlier, took my dad to like physical therapy and other stuff like that. So I popped on Twitter. I was like, what? So we'll be talking about that. Also, I got an interesting phone call from my sister. There's a story about a Detroit pastor who had some allegations thrown against him about a woman, and apparently he's denying some things that she was saying, I guess, on TikTok, on social media and stuff about him, but he did have an affair before. And so it's interesting that this is kind of popping off because this is the same pastor who took advantage of a mistake that my sister made when she was working on the Trump campaign. So she accidentally did like a press release when Trump was not Trump was in town, but some Trump surrogates were in town. And this pastor's name is Charles Ellis. And the pastor who is a Republican who we work with is Apostle Ellis Smith. And so she accidentally just mixed them up. And this was in the midst of my mother dying. And so when she made the error on the press release and stuff, she tried to apologize and correct the mistake and get in contact with the pastor, who's a fierce Democrat and stuff. And she had a mutual that said that he was aware of what was going on and she was trying to reach out, and he still just kind of exaggerated the story to get attention, and so did other Democrats as well. So now his business is out there, and I don't know what is true or not true with these allegations, but when you sow nastiness into the universe, I'm not surprised. Well, you reap what you sow. I won't say into the universe because that sounds too new age, but you reap what you sow is a biblical concept, right? So some days we are so news heavy. The border is secure. There's stuff with Obama, which we already talked about. I feel like that's not news. I know people are talking about it, but I've been talking about Obama and his administration undermining the incoming Trump administration forever. I've been talking about that for a long time, so I'm glad that other people are talking about it, but that it just doesn't feel like news to me. But there's lots of things going on. Today we got some tea. Today we got some tea to talk about. So just a little FYI, we'll see where our time is at, after we talk about those things. But yeah, they did my sister dirty during the whole campaign stuff. So I'll refresh you on what happened there. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream, run my site, all the good stuff. So you guys can support. I very much appreciate you guys. You guys can also do super chats if you're watching on YouTube. You guys can do super thanks if you're not super chats on YouTube. You guys could do stickers if you're watching back later or something like that on Facebook. I think they still do the stars. I saw there was a new monetized program thing. I didn't look at it yet, so I guess I'll have to get on that train and see about that. But if you want to do something directly, you guys can go to the website. You guys can also check out different merchants available. This isn't available at the website. I actually made this one back in 2016 when I worked for the Michigan Republican Party. It says Team Deplorable 2016. So, because Hillary Clinton was like, they're a basket of deplorables, and I I don't think that really like hurt her chances at all for like winning the presidency, but it was like a rallying moment for a lot of people, I guess, who were at that point going to vote for Trump anyway. And when you do engage people to go knock doors and make phone calls and all that stuff, that does help as well, and to donate. So yeah, they had these shirts when we went on our bus tour, so I still have it. I don't think I've ever like really worn it on the show or whatever before, but I don't break it out that often. But I did make the shirt back in the day, 2016. Wild time to be alive. But there is actual merch at my store that you guys can, of course, check out. And as a reminder, you guys know that I write books. I encourage you guys to check out some of my books. Like, I have a lot of fiction books like Super Kid, and I have my picture book that bigger that will be coming out soon. But I have some nonfiction books like, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. I encourage you guys to check that out because there's lots of nonsense in the world that we could push back against. I heard some new stuff this week that was just bizarre. Someone went on Joe Rogan's podcast and said, well, the angel asked Mary, was she willing to carry Jesus? And she said yes. So therefore you need consent to have life. And sadly, technically, we know that's just not true. You have the act of procreation. You don't even need to do that nowadays. You can just do it in a test tube or whatever, like a petri dish. Though I don't, support. There's some obviously ethical issues with that, but as far as like a principle, like in truth, like that's not true. If he means that you have permission to kill your child if you didn't want them, that's just a huge leap of logic. That's crazy. And one, and not one, but another thing is the angel, because he quoted in Luke, told Mary what was going to happen, and she's like, okay, cool, I'm good with that. So he told her what was going to happen and she was okay with that. They didn't get like a contract of consent or something before, all the stuff went into the works. So it's just not true on a lot of levels. Plus she was a virgin. So her being pregnant all of a sudden, that would be alarming, and not knowing what's going on, and obviously would harm her reputation and all the other stuff. So, she's in a totally different circumstance than majority of abortions, which are consensual grown women fornicating. Like, it's just ridiculous. So I'm going to go into more depth with that particular video on Joe Rogan. Sadly, he said all this stuff on Joe Rogan, but hopefully someone can go on there and correct the record. But anyway, let's jump into this pretty juicy story that just pretty much dropped. And I haven't looked to go see what Candace is saying about it. Maybe we'll have to peek over on Twitter a little bit. Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron sue far-right podcaster Candace Owens over false claims French president's wife is a man. Now, what's interesting about this, let me remind you all, Candace Owens has been on this for a long while. She even said at one point of time that she would be willing to put her entire career on the line with this thing being true. I think she, besides like mentioning it occasionally or whatever, I think she did like a little documentary thing about it, or some kind of long form video on it. But one of her kind of key arguments for it being true is that, well, if it weren't, they'd be acting differently. Like when she went on the Breakfast Club and she was like, okay, well, if she wasn't a man, like if I said you were a man, what would you do? And I don't know the name of the female host that's usually there. And she would like, I would probably like punch you. Or I think she said cry or punch you or something. And so Candace like, no, like, wouldn't you like come out and reveal stuff? And wouldn't you like do this and that and provide this evidence? And so she's like, well, yeah, I guess. And so, but her first reaction was like, I'd probably punch you and cry or something. So, now they're suing So is hopefully that lends more credence to the her actually being a woman category, and since she's gonna go ahead and put everything out on the line, and hopefully Candace will hang up everything and keep to her word. But I don't expect her to, though, to just be like, oh, I was wrong about this sensational thing that I said. um but this is interesting, that because I assume that they didn't really want to address it, because it's so, I would think, beneath them of having to address, needing to address, like this little dumb rumor thing. But she is a huge voice globally, especially in the US, even though she's becoming kind of more fringe all the time, but she does still have a big fringe audience. And so she said some time ago that Trump actually called her to try to lay off of the Brigitte Macron thing. And she and people were like, "Oh, I don't believe this is true. I don't believe this is true." I don't not believe that's true. It's very possible that Trump or someone from the team like called and said, "Hey, can you knock off this Brigitte thing?" Like the French president like mentioned it. I can believe that he's having a conversation with Trump. These people probably don't always talk about state affairs and the price of oil and whether they're going to send bombs to Ukraine. They probably talk about other things here or there. So, Trump has been interviewed by Candace Owens before. She used to be a more mainstream right wing person. And so, saying, "Hey, do you know this person?" Like, they keep saying my wife is a man and I don't like it. Like, can you like talk to her, or just, I can believe that happened. So there's a lot of people who are just like dismissing it very quickly. I think that was probably true. Um, However, I think that him like saying, she made it seem like it was holding up negotiations and aid or ending the war in Ukraine, because, oh, sorry, I think the split screen is probably like slowing up my stream a bit with okay, I think it's better. No, it's still, dang. Okay. Let me Okay, that's better now. Okay. Let me just read this off of my phone. Sorry guys. Sometimes when they put those ads in there, it just kind of messes stuff up. Those video ads. So I'll just read it to you. But I don't believe like the war in Ukraine or something was being held up because she keeps talking about her being a man. But she said that she like stopped talking about it for a minute, but she did bring it up again. So maybe once she leaked or whatever that the French president was talking to the US president about this stuff, they're like, you know what, enough's enough. Maybe they're like, enough's enough. And they did like try to do some things in the French court about people who were spreading rumors over there, but I don't know how all their laws are with defamation or whatever, but it didn't go their way. But maybe they feel like they can have better luck over in the US. So French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte Macron have filed defamation lawsuit against Candace Owens over the far-right influencer's relentless and unjustified smears campaign, falsely accusing Brigitte of being born a man. The 219-page defamation complaint filed in Delaware state court Wednesday accuses Owens of proliferating demonstrably false claims across her platforms, including an 8-part podcast. I didn't know it was 8 parts on social media designed to feed a frenzied fan base in pursuit of fame. I think that's true. These lies have caused tremendous damage to the Macrons, according to the Macrons lawsuit, which names Owens as well as her business entities, which are incorporated in Delaware. The false claims have subjected Macrons to a campaign of global humiliation, turning their lives into fodder for profit-driven lies, the complaint says. Owens has dissected their appearance, their marriage, their friends, their family, their personal history, twisting onto a grotesque narrative designed to inflame and degrade. The complaint alleges the result is relentless bullying on a worldwide scale. Every time the Macrons leave their home, they do so knowing that countless people have heard and many believe these vile fabrications. It is invasive, dehumanizing, and deeply unjust. The 22-count complaint filed in Superior Court seeks damages against Owens and her companies, including punitive damages. So they're going for her money. And she's got a lot of it. She's got a lot of it. Her husband, I mean, she already was doing well, obviously, in the podcast space, and it was, you know, she was working with PragerU. Then she worked, was it Turning Point, then PragerU, but she worked with both those entities, and she went to, you know, the Daily Wire, and of course that ended very ugly. But she married into a very wealthy British family. I think hers was like a lord or something like that. So she's got money to take. So the Independent has requested comment from a representative for Owens, who is expected to respond to the allegations on Wednesday's podcast. Brigitte Macron was previously awarded £6,750 in damages last year after two other far-right influencers falsely accused her of being a transgender woman. In that case, Amadine Roy and Natasha Ray were ordered to pay damages to France's First Lady, as well as her brother, Jean Michael Trudeau. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that last name. And the woman amplified bogus claims that Brigitte Macron had never existed and that her brother had changed gender and assumed that identity. For years, baseless conspiracy theories have proliferated across social media, accusing prominent women, from former First Lady Michelle Obama to Taylor Swift, of secretly being transgender, so-called transvestigations. I forgot about that term. That thread anti-trans rhetoric into a web of far-right conspiracy theories. The Macron's lengthy complaint in Delaware connects the case to Owens' long history of far-right conspiracy theories, including debunked anti-Semitic tropes and attempts to minimize the Holocaust, to her attacks against the French First Lady, which Owens has monetized on her YouTube channel, garnering millions of views. The episodic nature of Becoming Brigitte series resembles serialized true crime investigations, lending themselves to remixes across other platforms like TikTok, where Owens claims have racked up tens of millions of views. Owens published the series and related post with reckless disregard for the truth, according to the Macrons, who are represented by attorneys with the firms Farnan LLP and Claire Locke LLP. Owens was repeatedly represented with credible, verifiable evidence disproving her claims, including documentation, public records, and direct outreach from the Macrons. The lawsuit states, instead of correcting the record, she doubled down. Owens, fully aware of the truth, has not only declined to retract her statements, but has actively expanded on them. Yeah, they did send her something, and she just like read it on her podcast and kind of mocked it and tried to dissect it and stuff like that. So she has doubled down on all this stuff. She has built a brand on provocation, not truth. The complaint alleges her content is not intended to inform, but to inflame and attract attention through sensationalism and conspiracy theories, it claims. And the claim is not wrong. I don't know. As far as how deep she is in on like the conspiracy stuff, I don't know how much is her wanting clicks, how much is her being mentally ill herself, if she's, you know, how much is performance art, you know, when it comes to like InfoWars and the main guy who does it, someone can't think of his name, they turn the frogs gay. That dude, he is a performance artist, and like his attorneys even like alleged that, I mean, like plainly said that like in court when he was like had to defend himself. You know, I think maybe like during his hearings, like with his ex-wife or whatever, like you can't take all what he says seriously because it is performance art. And I think a lot of people, Alex Jones. Thank you, Priscilla. It just came to me like the same time. We're it's sick though. Thank you so much. I think most people who kind of, not that Alex Jones doesn't say true things, but I think everyone kind of knows that Alex Jones is doing like performance art at the same time. I don't know how many people believe that about Candace Owens. I don't know how deep she is in with the conspiracy stuff and how much is for clicks and stuff, because I don't get it. I don't get it, because I've said many times, you couldn't pay me to say a bunch of stuff, especially that radical, that I didn't believe or whatever. I wouldn't say just stuff for clicks and cash and stuff. I wouldn't do, and she doesn't need to. Again, she's done very well in the conservative sphere. And who's to say she even believed all the stuff that she said when she was like with the Daily Wire and so on? Maybe she was saying everything for a check and it helped her rise to power and all this stuff. But she has a husband who's very, very wealthy, and she just really doesn't need to go as far as she's going on a lot of this stuff. Like she accused a very famous author who wrote about his experience in the Holocaust of like making it up, and then people, and there were people who like doubted his experience and stuff, but other folks like confirmed it and so on. So those allegations have been debunked, but she just like doubled down on that kind of denialism and stuff too. So I don't think for the sake of their lawsuit though that they should, I don't know, get in the weeds with a lot of the different other stuff that she's done. I think because I think they want to prove that she's been particularly malicious toward them, and it's more than just her shtick and doing like a normal thing. She maliciously wanted to go after them and malign them and so on. So the fact that they are actually going ahead to file this in the United States, in Delaware, I think it's pretty serious. Like Billy Carson, when he went on a podcast, Billy Carson is into like a lot of different conspiracies, but they're like religious sort of conspiracies with the pyramids and aliens, and he said a lot of things about the Bible that are just wacky and not true. So he's been on Flagrant. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast and other places saying a bunch of things about, the Bible that just was not accurate, and about quoting different things from Gospels that are not canon or are fakes and other stuff like that. So he was friends with this one guy, and they like live in, I think, the same neighborhood. Their friends are kids, their wives are kids. I mean, their kids are friends, their wives are friends, and they've known each other for a while. So he went on his friend's podcast, who's, I don't know how new of a Christian or whatever he is, but didn't agree with Billy on some stuff. And so Billy agreed to come on, and they were just going to talk about some stuff. And his friend saw some videos from Wes Huff debunking some of Billy Carson's videos on like Joe Rogan and other stuff. And so they reached out to Wes, and they're like, hey, would you mind like coming on this podcast? And he was willing to do it. He was willing to fly out there, but the time just would not allow. So he was just like live streaming and talking to Billy. And so Billy knew that Wes Huff was coming on there. Now I would have like, if you said I'm going to be on a podcast with someone, I at least would Google them a bit to see what they're about. And you would have very easily, his channel wasn't big at the time. People didn't really know Wes Huff's name at the time. But if you did look him up on YouTube, you would find Wes Huff debunking Billy Carson videos. So if he did just a little bit of research, he would have known that Wes Huff was going to pick him apart with the different stuff he was saying. So anyway, Wes Huff was able to easily debunk a lot of the conspiracies and false things that he said about religion on that podcast. And Billy ended up leaving, and Billy was upset, and he ended up wanting the podcast taken down or not to air. And he went over his friend's house like really late at night and stuff. And then his friend decided to go ahead and put it out there because Wes Huff was like, you can do whatever you want to do, but I'm, letting it be known that I did have this conversation. I won't post it if you don't want to post it, but people are going to know that it happened. And so he eventually ended up putting it out there, and it of course embarrassed Billy. So Billy wanted to sue them both. And so he claimed that he was going to sue them, but he didn't even like sue Wes like in Canada, because Wes isn't he's from Canada. So he didn't go those extra steps to even really do the thing, to sue them for, I don't know, defamation or copyright infringement or whatever the route he was going to go. And then he went on a live stream one night and was talking about all that stuff, and basically admitted that he wanted to make them go through the courts to make them lose money, which you're not supposed to sue people just to make them lose money. So he just really crashed out and really embarrassed himself. And then, of course, Wes Huff just exploded, and he eventually went on Joe Rogan's show and went on Flagrant Show and got to spread the gospel. And so, you know, it had a very, very happy ending there. I'm hoping that Joe Rogan ends up bringing on a Christian to correct the guy he just had on his show the other day, who was trying to use the Bible to be pro-abortion. His arguments were just really, really bad. But my point in bringing that up is that if you're just going to say, I'm going to sue, and you don't take the necessary steps, like Billy didn't take the steps that were necessary to actually sue people or to competently sue Wes Huff. I don't know what Wes Huff would have did wrong or whatever, but he didn't go that extra route to actually get him in Canada. But they're gunning for Candace Owens, and they're going to Delaware to take her money. So Candace has gone through the courts before. Let's see if she's I saw Pastor Daryl Scott post this article that I read to you guys. Pastor Daryl Scott, he's a friend of Trump. I've been a friend of his for a long while. I think he met him at a prayer breakfast, like an impromptu prayer breakfast, maybe back in 2012 or 2011 or something. And he asked him would he support him if he ran for president? And he said, yeah. And so Trump didn't end up running for president at the time. And then, he contacted him again when he decided to run in 2016. He's like, I'm with you. Or 2015 or whatever. And so he does not like Candace Owens. I don't know what all the beef is with him and Candace. I don't know all the tea between them or what he does or what he doesn't know. But he is no fan of hers. And he calls her out anytime that he can. So I was not surprised. That was the first article I saw on this issue. Was his. But yeah, people are talking about it. I'm sure that she is too. I assume her show has probably aired already, so I don't know what she's saying on her show. People are already saying it's a rigged forum because Delaware has deep ties to the Bidens. And I think the where it's at is going to be an issue for her too. I do. I also think she has done wrong by them, and she's been running her mouth about things that aren't true. So just because, I don't know, well, you don't want courts to be biased. You want justice supposed to be blind and all that stuff. So if things don't go her way and she ends up losing a lot of money for defaming them, for claiming that the wife of the French prime minister, I mean, not prime minister, the president is a man for a long time and did like an 8-part series. If she ends up having to pay for that, I don't think we should just go, oh, it's because of the left. It's because of Hunter Biden or Joe Biden or whatever. Like she's gonna be responsible for what she put out there. People like when Trump sues when people lie on them. I'm not seeing her stuff pop up when I'm searching for her. Oh, She did do a show about it. I'm not about to play her show in the midst of us talking about it. I'm sure I'll see some stuff later. But that's also nuts too, because she is being sued at this point. So everything that she's going to say from this point on is just going to be used in the case against her. So if you seriously wanted to win in a case, you would be mum about that stuff and really careful. And so I don't know. I do think she's a little screwy. I'm not saying she's like full blown like can't function or something, but I don't understand why you go so far with so much of the stuff that she's been saying and doing as far as Jews and the Holocaust and um or the Macrons. I don't know why that became such an obsession for her other than clicks and stuff, but she doesn't need money like that. You know, maybe she just really really likes attention. I don't know. I don't know. I don't see any tweets beyond her tweeting her podcast for her reaction to all this. So, um yeah, I guess we will have to check that out later. Her response to it. Yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, another bit of tea. Another bit of tea. Do you guys recall back in it was just last year, excuse me. Last year, my sister, my eldest sister, she worked for the Trump campaign. And so she arranged an event in the Metro Detroit area. Trump wasn't going to be there, but there's going to be different surrogates from there. Mike Rogers, who's running for Senate, was there. And the pastor who gave the prayer from Detroit, he was there at the inauguration. He was at the event. He was like the Trump surrogate who was there, and other folks. So she was arranging that event. And in the midst of her arranging that event, my mom had died. And so this was obviously a very difficult time for my family. But she was still like doing some work and stuff here or there. And so she ended up sending out like a press release about who was going to be there at the event. And so there's a Detroit pastor who's a Democrat named Charles Ellis. And there's a Republican pastor who we work with all the time with different stuff, especially political kingdom sort of minded, stuff. His name is Ellis Smith. So she confused Charles Ellis and Ellis Smith and said put the wrong name on the press release. That seems like it's not a screw up you want to make, because one of them is supporting Trump and one of them is supporting Kamala Harris. It's not a mistake that you want to make, but the mistake was made. And so she put that out there. And when they had sent it back to her to like look over before they actually sent it out for like the press release or whatever, she was at my mom's wake. She was at my mom's wake. And so she sent it, she's like, it looks good. And so they put it out there. And Charles Ellis was upset. And she was embarrassed. The Trump campaign was really sweet about it. And they're like, don't worry about it. Like, it's okay. Like, and she's like, no, I have to personally take responsibility for this, because if I do not, they are going to push a narrative that they just did this because they think all black people look alike or are alike or whatever. Like they're going to stretch the narrative like that. And lo and behold, that's what they did. That's what they did. But she's like, I have to stand out in front of this and take accountability for this. Like, I know you guys are trying to be sweet because my mom just passed away, but I have to take accountability for this. So she did. And so she was reached out. She tried to reach out to the pastor, to Pastor Smith, and she reached out to someone who she knew had his number and stuff, and she talked to them, and she like explained stuff on social media, their mutual friend, and she said that the pastor knew what was going on, that about Gina's error or whatever, and she put out like a statement from like Gina online, and Gina told the news about it, which they didn't print her whole entire statement, but because it would have made them look really, really stupid with the narrative they were trying to push. But they did mention that our mom had passed away, and so they still pushed it because this pastor wanted to make it a big deal, and just kind of had an attitude and was alleging like, oh well, like why would they do this? Did they wanted to make it seem like I was supporting Trump? Again, very easy to mix those names up. And they wanted to go with that narrative. There was also a Democrat operative in Michigan who went full on like, oh, they did this basically because they're racist. Like, oh, they think black people are like they went that route that was so predictable, even though there was this obvious mistake that was made, and they could have had some grace for my sister and my family during that time. Obviously, this was, a stressful thing at the time. And I wasn't even too happy with Trump at that moment. And if you guys recall, like I was really ranting about the abortion issue and stuff. And I kind of didn't want to go to her event, but I did go, to support my sister. And I gave some great quotes about like why I was supporting him and not Kamala Harris and stuff when it got to me. And that's when I was saying stuff like, if you want to know like who you should vote for, just look at what they say about each other. I'm like, Donald Trump, he just tells the truth about Kamala Harris. That's all he has to do. But Kamala Harris has to invent all these different stories and narratives and things that he's going to do, and point to like Project 2025 and stuff, because she can't run on her record. So she has to run her mouth about Donald Trump and just lie about what he's going to do. So, even some reporters there that day was like, "Are you Gina?" And they're like, "I'm so sorry about what happened. Like, I'm so sorry about your mom," and so on, because they read that story. But anyway, that scumbag pastor, and I'll call him a scumbag because what he did was dirty, and he did it for fame and attention. He's in the news because he was accused of doing some things he shouldn't have been doing. So I'm going to go ahead and but he did have an affair in the past with this woman who's bringing up some accusations. So this is from the Metro Times. Detroit pastor admits to affair, denies explosive claims from former churchgoer. Bishop Charles H. Ellis III, the longtime leader of one of Detroit's most influential Black churches, acknowledged Monday night that he had an inappropriate relationship with a former church member, but he denies many of the explosive allegations she made in a series of now deleted TikTok videos. I did not see the TikTok videos. The former member, Melody Walker, said the relationship began in 2002 when she was 22 and Ellis was 47. And continued off and on until about 2018. She described the experience as painful and spiritually damaging, saying Ellis took advantage of her as a young single mother who had just moved to Detroit and had no family or support. Okay, hold on a second. Yee. Um, I don't know if that maths about it being. I don't know if the timeline is what he's alleging is wrong or not. Because I think he said that it was like 15 years ago. That would have been more than 15 years ago. So I don't know if she's 22 or older, but that's still, it's just gross anyway. Affair, pastor, someone from your congregation, young woman, obviously not right. Um, when you're 21 or 22, you finally meet somebody that is a support system. You will hold on to them, married or not. Walker said, I felt like he was my friend, but at the same time, he exploited my brokenness and my weakness and my need for support and to have a friend. He didn't have to do the things that he did in the name of benevolence. He could really just have been a good spiritual father and not made it what it was. Ellis, who had been married for nearly 37 years, who has been married for nearly 37 years, is senior pastor of Greater Grace Temple, a 6,000 member megachurch on Detroit's west side. In a statement to Metro Times, Ellis admitted he had an affair, but denied many of Walker's claims. I was recently made aware of a social media post shared by a former member of my congregation with whom I had an inappropriate relationship over 15 years ago. So that math, y'all. You might want to be precise. I know she wasn't a minor, but that's lots of red flags with this story, bruh. At the time, these indiscretions were addressed with my bishop in a redemptive process, which included counseling. Okay. If he was he the pastor at the time? Um, um, I'm not sure if he was a pastor at the time. If he was in leadership at the time or whatever, that's terrible, period. But just being counseled isn't enough, in my opinion. I think you really need to be set down. Like maybe you don't need to blast everyone in the whole church that you did this big sin or whatever, but you need to be sat down. Like secretly just counseled by your bishop and in a redemptive way. That I don't think I think you need to sit down. And I think, and not necessarily that I think people just need to be embarrassed when they do bad things. I think you probably should be, but people need to know that if there is some kind of scandal or some kind of thing where leadership messes up, whether it's the pastor, whether it's a deacon, whether it's someone playing the drums or piano, someone singing in the choir, someone singing in the praise team, the usher, like if you do something wrong, that you just kind of need to be sat down for a minute, and you just you come back when everything is you get yourself together. You take some time and you can pray about when the time is to be restored, but to keep just going on like nothing happened, I don't like that. That's just not how I was raised. In my church, like if you messed up, like, not that we don't believe in forgiveness and all that stuff, but people need to know that your church is at least going to hold folks accountable when they do wrong. Anyway, in a statement, the Metro Times, Ellis admitted he had an affair, but denied many of the Walker's claims. Okay, I'm sorry, I read that. Ellis added that he had contacted an attorney. These posts include accusations, some of which are deeply troubling and untrue. He said, given the nature of several false claims being made, I have asked my legal counsel, attorney Gerald Evelyn, to carefully review all matters, in particular an apparent joint bank account with my name on it. I have retained communications counsel Mario Morrow and Morrow Mario Morrow and Associates LLC to assist in addressing the situation appropriately. In one video posted on TikTok, Walker posted what appeared to be a bank statement listing both her and Ellis's names. She also showed photos of herself with Ellis, including one she said was taken in 2022, which was the last time I saw him, and another photo she said Ellis is pictured with her baby in his office. He christened my baby in his office because I wasn't married, Walker said, and this is the inception of the relationship. In another video, Walker said she isn't speaking out to make this messy or get revenge, but to share her truth. It is what it is at this point. She said, it is my story. It's my testimony. Women need help. The people need help. If my testimony can help somebody not compromise herself for money, I just finally have the courage to talk about it. Walker said she didn't take intimate photos because the affair was a secret. I wasn't looking to expose him. And of course, he was looking to keep things private, she said. Walker said her decision to speak out comes after years of fear and emotional turmoil. I just finally have overcome the fear of something happening to me by talking about it, she said. We do live in Detroit. People do come up missing and dying all the time. Oh my gosh. But I feel God, and I know that the Lord is with me, and I know my story, and things happen to me for a reason. So it's just time for me to tell it. I'm healed, and I just want to talk about it. She added, I don't blame him. I was in love. I believed he cared for me deeply. This isn't about blaming anybody. People are broken. People do things for different reasons, and we have to understand that. May the truth make us free. Walker returned an email from Metro Times on Monday evening saying she wanted to wait to comment until she consulted with an attorney, since Ellis appeared to be threatening legal action by Tuesday morning. Her TikTok account had been deleted. In a July 7th post on social media, Ellis marked his birthday with a message about his family, describing them as one of God's greatest gifts. My wife and I have enjoyed 37 beautiful years of marriage, traveling the world, and building a life rooted in love and faith, he wrote. To the ones who know me beyond the mic and the message, I love you more than words can say. In one video, Walker said too much positive attention is given to men when they have affairs, and that women end up taking the blame. It's not to exploit anybody, she said of leveling the allegations against Ellis, but at the same time, did they exploit me? Did they think about my family? I don't think so. Why is it that always about the man and his family and what he's risking? Didn't he risk that when he decided to do what he did? Yeah, but you're both wrong. Like, both. He was married. He shouldn't have betrayed his wife. You knew that he had a wife and was engaged in a covenant, and you both did wrong. Now, there's a power imbalance. He's, but there are women who really like that. They like dudes. Women go after pastors. Guy, I don't know why. Like there was somebody in my church for a long time. She's been a member for a long time though. But like back in the day, she was in love with my dad. Like would write him letters. He wouldn't read them. He would just give them to my mom. But fantasize about him leaving us and her leaving her family and then running away together. You know? And we didn't, bring that up at my mother's wake, but whatever. It's there are women. I don't know. They like pastors. Maybe it's just the proximity and that sort of figure. They're just attracted to just people with power who they feel are like kind of caring and nurturing and stuff. And maybe they're missing that in their life early and they're just seeking it out. I don't know what the psychology behind it, but I can't say that there are women who just seek out pastors. Now there's women who also say allegations and lie and stuff. I've seen people lie about stuff. And like someone wrote a letter like saying all this different stuff, and people multiple people who were like involved were looking at the letter like as reading it being like, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. How'd they get that? Why'd they even bother writing that? So a lot of people delude themselves about different things that happened. But he admitted that he had the affair, and it was over 15 years ago, and she said it was in 2002. So her being 22, him being 47, that there's already a lot of gross things involved in this story. Yeah, but at least she said she made a mistake and regrets what she did. She said some girls at a young age have that kind of common sense and some girls don't. She said in a video they have to learn. Some of them never learn. Some women will always compromise themselves for a couple of dollars for some companionship. Everybody has their own journey. The fact remains that I grew, I learned, and I'm not making some excuses for it, but I'm telling my story. In his statement, Ellis asked for privacy. I asked for continued prayers for myself, my family, as well as this individual and her family. He wrote, "My deepest hope is that all parties involved can find peace and healing. This isn't the first time Ellis has drawn controversy. In 2018, he apologized after images showed him touching pop star Ariana Grande on stage after Aretha Franklin's funeral. Oh, yeah." In Detroit, with his hand pressing against her chest as he greeted her. Ellis said it was not intentional. Um, he said it would never be my intention to touch any woman's breast. I don't know. I guess I put my arm around her. Ellis said at the time, maybe I crossed the border. Maybe I was too friendly and familiar, but again, I apologize. He also faced criticism for joking that Grande's name sounded like a Taco Bell menu item. I personally sincerely apologize to Ariana and to her fans and to the whole Hispanic community. Ellis said Grande is Italian American. Ellis Ellis is one of Detroit's most high profile pastors and previously served as presiding bishop of the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World, which oversees dozens of churches. He appeared frequently on national religious broadcasts and is a fixture of civic and nonprofit boards across the city. He and his wife, Chrisette Ellis, also drew attention in 2020 when the Detroit Free Press profiled their Bloomfield mansion in an 11,000 square foot estate valued at more than $3 million. Despite the bishop's wide influence and public persona, Walker said her story is a reminder that spiritual leaders should be held accountable. I moved to a city with no friends or family, she said. It was my Abraham experience. All I had was me and my 6-year-old son. Whew. Yeah. So said, aren't pastors supposed to be men of God and not government? Um, yeah. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And they should be held um to stand. Let me share this so you guys know what he looks like. But I've never met, I don't think I've met him. Um my sister has met his wife because she did like had like a fashion show or something. I think my sister is one of her models or something. Um but I did not appreciate again what he did in 2020. I'm sorry, 2024. And how he really, really was desperate to make that, I don't know, get attention and fame for a little mistake and a little error. And my sister was even talking about a little bit maybe it wasn't a, I don't know, she would have downplaying a bit. I'm like, no, they're like trying to allege that you did this like maliciously on purpose to lie. I'm like, they're trying to defame you a bit. Like what he did was wrong. So what I guess some of that, here's some of that attention he ordered. I guess here's some of that attention he ordered. Anyway. Oh, so I said he gave them to your mom. That is a boss husband move, in my opinion. Yeah, when people would write letters to my dad, he didn't care about them. He didn't read them. He didn't care what they had to say. So he would just like, here, Isabel, and he didn't care. And it was still weird. Like one time we went out praying with we went to like a service. It was our service, I guess, but this woman came and she was just like, "Will you pray for my ankles?" And like put her leg up and stuff. And we're like, "Ma'am, in front of us, and my dad's just like looking like, what's wrong with it? And she's like, oh, well, she it was weird. Like it was so, women can get so weird around pastors. So there are women who chase them for sure, but to these men who take advantage of those opportunities, when women throw themselves out there, or these men who set up women and chase them, and because there's pastors who do that. Like there was one pastor who was like big in the area and stuff. He got in a bunch of different issues with women, but he had reached out trying to DM my sisters, you know. Um so there's a lot of creeps out there, man. There's a lot of creeps out there, but I just, if something happens in the church, and they can happen anywhere. People fall, people fail. But there does need to be accountability, because it just really makes the whole body look bad, and makes the church look bad, and so on. So if they just quietly counseled him and stuff, I don't, after he was having an affair with a woman who was, half his age, not even, that's single with kids, just moved into town or whatever, according to her. That is so not right. That's not right. Anyway, that's the tea. That's the tea for the day. Uh yeah. Well, anyway, I pray he's right now, and that she's right, but um that more of that ego dies a bit, because again, he was really shady in 2024. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed the show, please go blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the site, because it does cost a streamer on the site. All that gets, so you guys can support it. I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. I will continue to keep you up to date on some of my things in the works. Like this is my like proof copy right now of my book Bigger. I'm gonna experiment a little bit with some different printing stuff, but I'll let you guys know when it's gonna be available. I have posed a question on TikTok, and I'm gonna try to, I guess, talk about it without like crying in front of you guys. But the premise of the book is about this little baby dinosaur, and he's growing up, getting bigger. That's his wish. But it's also about here's a little picture of the baby too. It's really cute. About his mom and their relationship, and because there's like a line like, she fears for the day when her baby's hand will unlatch. She's like, well, what do you want, my birthday boy? And he, I'll give anything that I can, basically make you happy and stuff. Those aren't the rhymes. There's actual rhymes in the book and stuff. And so he says that he wants to get bigger. And so he wants to be bigger than like this beautiful tree. He wants to be bigger than, then he gets bigger than the tree, and then he, wants to get bigger than his dad, and then he gets bigger than his dad, and then he wants to be bigger than the sun. He just has like extreme delusions of grandeur, and then after that, his mom has to like set him down, and this is like the delusion page. He's like holding the sun in his hand, imagining himself, and it gets hyper realistic all of a sudden, as opposed to like the cute dinosaur stuff. And he's like, I could make the sky go dark if I want to. And then the mom's like, no, like, you're not supposed to be that big. You're not supposed to be huge or whatever. You're like, you're my baby. So she like, there's this page where she like scolds them, and they look kind of chibi and stuff and cute all of a sudden. And she's like, you're my baby, and I love you, and this is how you're supposed to be. And then she says this line about, and my little arms are small enough to hold. If you're too big for hugs, and your heart will grow cold. And the lines that have repeated throughout the book have been, my dear little dinosaur, don't you ever fret. You'll grow big. You'll grow bigger. You'll be big. You can bet. And so then it changes to, my dear little dinosaur, don't my dear little dinosaur, don't you ever fret. my love is bigger, it'll grow bigger. It's so big you can bet. So then it goes through like his life, graduation, and then he gets married. And she says, and please just remember, no matter how big you get. And then the last page is him and his mom. And she says, it's never time to leave your mama quite yet. And I was kind of conflicted because I don't have any like dedication stuff in it yet. Like at the beginning, I'm probably going to put in something for my nephew because he inspired it, because he kept going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I thought of the idea. I'm like a very easily inspired person for this book. So, and then we showed him the book on Sunday, and he's like, so there's nothing in it like me. Like, you could put something in there. Like, he's 10, he's trying to be nonchalant about it, but he totally wanted to be named or whatever in there. So I'm going to put his name at the beginning. Excuse me. But, I wanted to put something in there about my mom, at the end. And I was thinking maybe picture when I'm little and then me bigger. And same with my sister, because she's the artist, and maybe all my siblings. I don't know. But I was conflicted about it because I didn't want to be too sad with her passing away. And I want people to kind of go like, oh, like that's cute at the end of the book, and not necessarily be like, wow, that's really a downer. So I had did a video about it on TikTok yesterday, and I think it was yesterday, and people's response was like they wanted to hug me because I was like sobbing on the camera. I don't like to do that, but it just kind of happens sometimes. And they all believe that I should go ahead and put her in there and put that page in there, and someone said they thought it would be cute if that was like a dinosaur or whatever. I'm not asking my sister to draw more things. I think she's drawn enough. But it's a cute idea. But yeah, I probably will go ahead and add that. So that's just something I have to add to it. But yeah, I said I just didn't think when I wrote that and my sister drew that at the time, I just didn't think that by the time we would release it, we wouldn't have our mom with us. So it's still a deep wound, guys. It's still hard. We're coming up on a year in September with her not having her with us. We've all had a birthday without her except for Sabrina. She passed right before my brother's birthday, and that was a hard birthday. We went to like this Italian restaurant that he wanted to go to, and we just weren't talking a lot, and I was sitting next to him, and I just started crying. I'm like, I'm trying not to be a bummer, but man, this is hard. We're just all like eating spaghetti and crying. And then like talking about some mess that some folks in the family outside of our immediate family about the funeral, but otherwise it was beautiful, but there was a little bit of drama. But anyway, I'll be glad to have it out. And thank you to those of you who have been interested and who followed my sister, who's an artist. And people also gave me really good feedback on the book too, and said that they want to get it for their kids and grandkids and stuff. And even saying things like, their spouse had passed away and their little ones are without their father. So just showing the eternal love of like a parent, is good. So, and then people want to know things about the author as well. Kids are curious about that stuff, so someone who said that they work with kids and that they'd probably like to see it at the end. And, so I'm going to go ahead and, put it in there. Mad Hatter said you lost both your parents in 2020. It does go away. You just live on. That was one of the things I kind of hated hearing the most after she passed, was like, it never really goes. Well, you said it does go away. People were saying, and you just got to move on with this, never really goes away, um you know I mean, it's gotten better. I mean, grief comes in waves, it comes and it goes and so on. So, um, but thank you. I am sorry for your loss. It's you know, I mean, I guess hopefully you go before your parents go before you do. I had to watch my grandmother lose, some of her children. But it's just, I think it's mostly a shock because her parents, her mom and her grandmother lived to be 100, and she made to 67. So I literally thought I would have another 30 years or so with my mom. So oh, you said it does not go away. Okay. Oh, it doesn't go away. Okay. Yeah, you do have to just kind of get used to it. I mean, we form to new roles. We step in, and have taken care of my dad in ways that, she really took care of him. And even things like she would take the offering in the back and count the offering, and was, doing the records and other things like that. And so, stepping into the different roles that she had, you know, it's, making sure that she was like the queen of Christmas, man. She would shop all year. There were still gifts from her for Christmas because she had shopped already by the time she had passed. And she had some money like sitting up at different places. So we just took that and bought more things for Christmas. So we had a good Christmas. But and my sister Sabrina's, trying to make sure like my nieces and nephews still have like a lot of clothes for their birthday, because my mom would shop for clothes, and make sure my dad goes out and gets a good gift, for birthdays or whatever. One of the things that my dad paid for my birthday, they got a sewing machine for me. So that was not a cheap gift. So anyway, I'm just kind of ranting about my life now. Thank you for listening. You guys are so sweet. Oh, that's nice. Kit Kat, you said your parents are older when they had you. So you live with the assumption that they wouldn't be there as long, and they're still with you. That is a blessing. And it's nice to hear, because I would like to get married, and I'm starting to knock on 40. you know. So I would I'd like to have some time with my husband and my kids. So that is comforting to hear. We're all trying to take better care of ourselves too, so we live those long lives. So anyway, thank you guys. Want to get off of here before I start any kind of waterworks. So God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk some news, like real news, and not tea, unless there's some really good tea. We'll sprinkle it in. We're trying to be balanced. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.